Hello friends, my name is Kate and today I'm going to be reviewing Heavenbreaker. I was really lucky to be one of the people to receive an arc of Heavenbreaker, but don't worry, just because I received an arc, my review is going to be my review. So stay tuned, stick around. It'll be the usual format today, which means I'll be giving a spoiler-free review at the beginning for readers or writers, and then I will be following it up with a technical review containing spoilers for people that might want a technical idea behind this book. First order of business, I'm going to read the synopsis that I wrote myself. I find doing this is extremely helpful as a writer. So if you're a writer, maybe start writing a synopsis for the book that you just read. What does that help us with? It helps us write our query letter. Okay, because by writing a synopsis, by taking what you see as the key points in this book, trying to mix it up, make it interesting, make it punchy enough to have someone want to read it is a great practice. So, as usual, I wrote my own. I wouldn't say this is my best, no judging. And I will be reading it from my phone because I don't remember these things. Alright, so, only a few space stations are left after the war. The people live inside in the wards and entertain themselves with the jousting tournaments. Synali's life doesn't get to stay so simple after her mother is assassinated. She spends 6 months trying to learn who did it until she finds a way in and puts a dagger in her noble father's back. But killing him isn't enough. His house still stands, his accomplishments are still alive. If she fades away now, no one will know that he tried to kill his bastard daughter. Luckily, another noble has just the right plan to see her history set straight. By joining him and winning a jousting tournament, the man not only offers her revenge on everyone involved with her mother's murder, but also relief at the end. All she has to do is survive all 7 rounds of the tournament, but as she spends more time in her steed, she's not entirely sure if she's the only one controlling the machine. I don't know about you friends, when I was sent the synopsis of this book and the pitch from the PR team was, hey, do you want an arc? Do you want to read this book? I was extremely psyched. The premise was exciting. We have not only a space world, because I love sci-fi. So if you're a sci-fi lover, this might be the book for you. I love sci-fi. I love the idea of jousting set in space. That was the kicker that got me roped in. Then it was also all the dark plot points that come along with it, because we all know I love me some good dark stories. I was like, yes, please send it. I will read and review for you. Now, jousting in space, how is that achieved? I mentioned steed in the synopsis. So as it goes, there are these mechanical machines. Think if you saw Pacific Rim, how they would go into the machine and fight the scary monsters from the Pacific Rim. The same concept is in this book. You essentially enter a steed and you go and you joust in space. And if you're a Knight's Tale lover like me, you were immediately hooked into jousting for just the rest of your life, okay? Because we watched A Knight's Tale. Thank you, Hollywood. Jousting in space made the story extremely unique and exciting. It was a fun twist. Overall, I think that the story was very original in the idea. I mean, yes, avenging your mother's death might not be the most original story out there, but mixing that with jousting with the space station that is created, the different ward levels, I got a lot of Foundation influences in the book. Not saying she was. I'm just seeing some Foundation in there. I'm seeing some of the jousting, as well as just some fun, dark plots of avenging murder and trying to, we have the sassy dark lead that we all know and love. So if you like Ninth House especially, we have a very similar female protagonist leading the way of the story. The story is very layered, very in-depth. There's a lot of different plot points and twists and turns along the way, making you really want to read the next book. Because not everything is answered in the first book, as normal. And don't worry, for all our romantasy lovers out there, people who like a romance plot, or maybe if you don't like a romance plot. The romance plot in the book, there was one, but the romance plot of the book is small, enough to keep you interested, but small if you're not interested, but it was also extremely realistic as well. There are connections between the two people in the relationship, however we want to call this, brain blop. But there's enough interest there, but we really get to the realistic aspect of having feelings for each other. And you get to see that play out nicely, because I know a lot of times people get kind of like, oh, this is writing love, this is love at first sight, blah, 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 and they don't like it. Well, the love in here is realistic, and there is love, but not too much if you don't want it in the story. Overall, I thought the story was original. I appreciated that the writing was very nuanced. We got a lot of perspective from the protagonist in the story. She very much led the first person narrative. There were other plot and story voices as well in the book that added a little in depth. There are a lot of questions I still need answered in the second book, especially how some of the characters are connected. But overall, if you like sci-fi books, if you like great characters with a snarky attitude like in Ninth House, and if you like jousting or A Knight's Tale or Pacific Rim, then this might be the book for you. I found it to be enjoyable. It is a very thick, long book, which I find is good because I just spent $20 on a 120-page book. Okay, so you're getting bang for your buck with this thing. I mean, I think it took me 6 days to read, and we're not counting the days that I couldn't read due to visiting a friend. So 6 actual days of reading, and I read very quickly. So you will get your money's worth in Heavenbreaker. Okay, now friends, we are in the technical review. If you don't want spoilers, look away. But if you're a writer and you're wanting to read this book from a technical perspective, then stick around because I'm going to talk some particulars about the book. First off, friends, I need to vent. I love this portion of the video because it lets me vent about the stuff that annoys me. Like, okay, why is the heroine always going to do the thing the readers are shouting at her not to? We're going total horror movie here where it's like, don't open the door, don't do this, you're being silly. Happen again in this book. Writers, can we just be better? Can we be better, please? Because I'm so annoyed by it. So annoyed. But yes, that happened. Okay? It happened. Don't do that. Please, I'm begging you. One of the key problems I really had with this book is actually the writing style, which makes me quiver in my seat because I see some of my own similarities of writing in this book. And I'm like, is this what all my beta readers are complaining about? Because now I understand. The writing was extremely swirly. That is how I am going to describe it. It was very swirly, and some of the word choices left me confused. I didn't get a cohesive follow through in the sentences to make me go, okay, we're at A and now we're at B. It was more of just like, we're at A, oh holy shit, how do we get over here to B? I don't understand. And I think that's why it took me so long to read this book, because I had to reread a lot of stuff to actually understand. Or I just gave up and just hoped I would understand later when I got to a spot that maybe I needed that information for. So I get the major plot points I have in the book, but I'm still like, what happened? Overall, I'm a little surprised at some of the writing choices, only because this is not a debut book. Sara Wolf has other books out there, okay? So I'm not sure who edited this, because if I was editing it, I might have pointed out a few areas where a little bit more description or a little bit more flow from point A to point B would have helped the reader be able to understand what's happening more. But overall, if you can take out the swirling, confusing writing bits, the writing itself was very high level and well done. It was very descriptive. It had some excellent analogies and comparisons. It was higher level writing that sometimes I'm not seeing in books these days, and I really appreciate the effort, because even though this is sci-fi, we can still have great writing in it. I thought that the characters in the book were also extremely well written. The protagonist packs a punch, but it's the kind of punch where she is a very flawed character, but we can like her. And it's not that kind of character that we're forced to like because the writer we're all readers and writers out there, okay? But it's not the type of character that the writer is like, hey, she's gonna have issues and you're just gonna love her whether you like her or not because she's the protagonist. And that is a very thin line to walk. I think Leigh Bardugo did it really well in the book I keep mentioning in this review, Ninth House. But I also believe that Sara Wolf did an excellent job in also achieving that with her main character. And I'm not gonna say the main character's name again because you got it once, and I don't want to butcher it again. But if you're a writer and you're really struggling on trying to find something unique in the world with all these books that are being written, or even if you say like something from medieval times, like Sara Wolf clearly did with jousting, here is a great example of taking something from the past and making it original into the future, into a space world. What are you interested in? What are your hobbies? What are these things? How can you convert that into something that's sci-fi? How can you make that original? And it is that kind of imaginative thinking that will make you a really good storyteller, because you keep asking the questions of how and why. why are we here? How did we get to this point in time? And so Sara definitely does build up the backstory of this planet and having a war with supposedly alien creatures, and then essentially building these devices to be able to beat the alien creatures. I also found that her alien creatures were extremely unique. First off, as far as I can tell from her writing, they're not bipedal, they're not the typical gray men that Hollywood seems to say are what aliens look like. Also, she was very original in how the alien species may not always die, and it is very much the alien species themselves that keeps the humans living and thriving. And I'm really excited to see how she plays this out in the next book and all the differences that we see. But this is the kind of imaginative thinking that she does that I found to be extremely original, and the reason that I still love the book even with the issue with the writing style itself. Overall, I think that you can still get a lot out of this book. Maybe you can see some things not to do, but you can also get inspired to see how someone else took something and made it original to her own story in a world where we have so many stories being told, okay? I mean, she took Pacific Rim, mixed it with Knight's Tale, and threw in a Ninth House character into it. I mean, it's great. You can be inspired by things that you already read and convert them into a story that is still massively unique for yourself. So, time to pick up Heavenbreaker and give it a listen. And if you like this review, check out all the other reviews on my page, as well as the podcast, Dark Side of the Word, where we get way more into technicals, or have a book club, and also update everyone on the writing life with me and my co-host, and how we're not thriving. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe. Have an amazing reading day.